Hello, everyone, and greetings from Southern California. I'm Dr. Kristi Funk, board-certified breast cancer surgeon and medical director of the Pink Lotus Breast Center in Los Angeles. I'm also board-certified in lifestyle medicine, which makes today's talk particularly exciting to me. Why? Because today we're going to discuss how diet and lifestyle choices impact young women's breast cancer and health. First, a look at where the stats are trending. In 2020, breast cancer surpassed lung to become the #1 malignant tumor on planet Earth, with about 2.3 million new cases and 685,000 deaths worldwide last year. More expected this year, and even more predicted for next year. So clearly, breast cancer constitutes a major worldwide public health threat and remains a scientific, clinical, and societal challenge. Data from the Global Burden of Disease Study 2019 was analyzed and reported out last June that the incidence rate in this current decade, 2020 to 2030, is increasing, with the most significant rise seen in those aged 45 to 49, going from 80.94 in 1990 to 98.41 in 2030. So that's over a 22% increase in breast cancer incidence in just 4 decades. And cancers are occurring younger than ever. In fact, when we look at global trends in graph form, in those under 50, we see that since 2010, there's a steady uptick in cases under 50 here in North America and in Europe. But on all other continents of the world, it's just a straight shot upward in incidence for those under 50 from the 90s to the present. And sadly, only high socioeconomic status countries are enjoying a year after year precipitous drop in mortality, while the rest of our sisters on Earth see a steady and relentless rise in death. The World Health Organization's admirable response was to start the Global Breast Cancer Initiative, whose objective is to reduce global breast cancer mortality by 2.5% per year, thereby averting 2.5 million breast cancer deaths globally between 2020 and 2040. The 3 pillars towards achieving this objective are health promotion for early detection, timely diagnosis, and comprehensive breast cancer management. However, I would like to add a 4th objective, because these 3 are reducing mortality, meaning death from breast cancer that is getting diagnosed. So let's diagnose it early. But how about we never get it at all? The 4th pillar would be that we need to offer evidence-based health guidance starting in teenage years. We need to create and implement enhanced interventions and treatments to reduce disease risk. Why? The easiest cancer to cure is the one you never get. Now, is that realistic? Can we prevent cancer? No, we cannot. Not entirely. However, I get it. You can't play bingo with your life's choices and confidently say, like, there, I exercised, I ate right, I stressed less, and boom, I did it. I got 5 things right. Bingo, no cancer for me. But you can exert some enormous control over reducing your risk. How do I know this? Because only 20% of women with breast cancer have a family history of breast cancer. And in fact, only 5 to 10% of all women with breast cancer can attribute it to an inherited genetic mutation, such as BRCA, CHEK2, ATM, and the like. Now, I'm not diminishing the importance of global genetic testing to identify and appropriately manage these very high-risk individuals. I'm merely pointing out that these mutations do not account for the vast majority of breast cancer causation. DNA mutations like BRCA exist or they don't exist, and so they cannot explain the increase of 22% over 4 decades, nor can we blame mom and dad for why breast cancer is happening at younger ages every year. Just like these inherited genetics, there are other risk factors we cannot change in life. So I want to acknowledge them and then hyper-focus on what we can change. Breast cancer risk factors you cannot change are being born female, getting older, having a family history of breast and other cancers, having an inherited genetic mutation like BRCA, your race and ethnicity, having had radiation to the chest wall, say for Hodgkin's lymphoma prior to age 30, being of tall height, having dense breasts, having earlier menarche, which is the age at which you begin having your monthly menstrual cycles, and later menopause, a personal history of marker lesions, I mean precancerous changes in breast tissue, things that had the word atypia in them, or radial scar, or lobular carcinoma in situ, DES exposure in utero, and parity, which is how many babies you've had and how old you were when you birthed them. Now, as much as these conditions seem fixed, they are but seeds capable of germinating within you, but your lifestyle and environment are the soil, the water, the sunlight that determine whether those seeds grow into flowers or weeds. You do have agency over your health destiny. The key to protecting yourself from breast cancer is to understand that the following daily choices you make unleash biochemical weapons into circulation that either stoke or choke cancer, fuel or fight cancer. Choices like nutrition, exercise, body weight, risky substances, including alcohol and tobacco, environmental toxicities, emotional stress, fasting, sleep, microbiome alterations, and hormone therapies. All of those choices support a bath, the fluids and cells and hormones and growth factors that bathe, support, and fuel cancers, or seek and destroy them. You choose. Every time you eat or don't eat, drink or don't drink, move or don't move, sleep or don't sleep, think or don't think something, forgive or don't forgive someone, you're messing with the water. You don't want to give this cancer rubber ducky all the bubbles and lavender salts and plush towels it needs to survive and thrive. So let's look at this list of controllables and examine a typical 2025 day in the life of a woman. It's the American way. Instead of laboring all day in the home, tending to children and preparing fresh meals, women around the world since the 1970s have begun to enter the workforce in droves, leading stressful and sedentary lives that expand their waistlines. They delay childbearing until later years, if at all, not breastfeeding, eating leftover pizza for lunch while sending off that email ASAP and then dashing home. Or if you at all know the famous 405 freeway in LA, they're bumper to bumpering at home in very aggravating traffic. Not me, though. I ride my bike to and from work, so I just zip right by them. See ya. Anyway, back to our either traffic or zipping home just in time to put takeout on the table, pour a glass of wine, and plop on the couch to catch a favorite Netflix binge before bed. That scenario I described informs that bath. And it fills that tub with everything that cancer loves to soak in and thrive in. Things like estrogen, IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, blood vessel formation, angio blood vessel genesis birth, the birth of new blood flow, which every cancer requires to become larger than the tip of a ballpoint pen. Insulin resistance, microbiome alterations, free radical formation, which causes oxidative stress, which then creates this persistent inflammation that impairs your immune system. So now it's dysfunctional. Tumor suppressor genes, which naturally suppress the expression of tumors, and oncogenes, which are genes that are just turned on, pedal to the metal, turning over, making mistakes, and then becoming a cancerous wad, all lead to DNA mutations with uncontrolled proliferation. When you eat, drink, move, sleep, think, and live strategically in an anti-estrogenic, anti-IGF-1, anti-angiogenic, anti-inflammatory way, bam, you take away all those bubbles and lavender salts. And now the cancer says, oh, just plain water? Oh, I guess I'll die now. Poof, apoptosis, which is cancer cell death. Let's take a look at nutrition. All health and illness comes down to this oxidative stress model. Free radicals are these unstable atoms that lack an electron and they steal one from their neighbor, which then makes the neighbor unstable and so on until there's consistent chaos. And when more bad with all these free radicals hangs out, then there is good to stop it. This oxidative stress this imbalance persisting day after day after years, and then decades, your body's cells and DNA just get too beat up. Sickness results. Basically, whichever organs these free radicals injure the most frequently and severely determines what diseases you'll get. If it's your blood vessels, hello, heart disease. If it's your muscles, fibromyalgia, intestines, irritable bowel, leaky gut, your brain, I'm forgetting. Oh, wait, dementia, Alzheimer's. If there's excessive free radical damage in your breast tissue, however, well, cancer. So by the way, where are all these antioxidant heroes coming from? Plants. Plants on average carry 64 times the antioxidant power of meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. Let that sink in. So that means gram per gram. In order to ingest the antioxidant content in 1 cup of blueberries for 57 calories and basically no fat, you would need to eat how many slices of plain cheese pizza? 27.5 nauseating slices of cheese pizza for over 7,500 calories and 323 grams of fat. It's not just that animal products lack antioxidants, it's also what they create. Meet frenemy number 1, IGF-1. Insulin-like growth factor is the biggest growth promoter that we make inside our bodies. It screams at all your cells to grow, which is super useful if you're a child wanting to become an adult. Really grateful for IGF-1 because we turn over 50 billion cells a day and they need replacing. IGF-1 accomplishes that. But once the daily needs are met, what is IGF-1 doing for the rest of your life? Well, it turns out once these tasks are complete, if there's excess IGF-1 screaming at cells to grow, then grow they will. Into cancer, into metastases, into the lung, in the liver, in the brain, in the bone. Whoa, someone better settle that IGF-1 down. Turns out you're that someone. This study followed over 6,300 adults over the age of 50 for 18 years. And what they found is that those aged 50 to 65 years old who ate the highest versus least amounts of animal protein led to a 430% increase in cancer death and a 7,300% increase in diabetes when compared to those in the low protein group. Okay, so IGF-1 emerged as an important moderator of this association between protein consumption and mortality, since wherever protein went, IGF-1 levels were sure to follow, just like Mary and her little lamb, which actually would happen if Mary ate her lamb. Notably, no such elevations in risk happen with proteins derived from plants, only animals. So take a look at this. This is IGF-1 levels in premenopausal women. And when we see the highest levels of IGF-1 down here, we see a 21% increase in breast cancer risk over the person with a normal IGF-1 level. After menopause, the highest IGF-1 levels have a 33% increase in breast cancer risk. It's not just that the IGF-1 your body makes from eating meat is a problem. It's also what's naturally in the meat. In 2015, the International Agency for Research on Cancer called all processed meat, which you might call by friendly names like sausage, hot dog, bacon, and anything on a charcuterie board, including your organic turkey breast from the deli section. The IARC calls all of these foods potentially deadly. In 2015, 22 scientists from 10 different countries poured over 800 epidemiologic studies to answer the question, are red meat and processed meats bad for you? Their conclusion, they bestowed the highest warning level possible to the consumption of all processed meat, labeling it flat out carcinogenic to humans, on par with smoking, plutonium, asbestos. And they classified red meat as probably carcinogenic to humans. We do know it causes colon cancer. Why doesn't everyone know that a charcuterie board is just a fancy tray serving preventable death? Red meat and breast cancer. This study followed 90,000 premenopausal women for 12 years. In that time, 1,021 cases of invasive breast cancer occurred. There was a 14% increase in likelihood of breast cancer for those consuming 3 to 5 servings of red meat a week, and a 42% increase for those consuming more than 5 servings a week. This study found a positive association between early adult intake of animal fat and breast cancer risk. So it's not just the things in the meat, like cholesterol and fat, and the nitrates and the heme iron, because carcinogens also get created from cooking. So how would you like your steak? Raw, rare, medium rare, well done, burnt to a crisp? Well, you better have chosen steak tartare, since the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and heterocyclic amines that form from high heat cooking in 100% of meats, including chicken, are linked to breast cancer. How so? 54% higher for hamburger consumers, 64% higher for bacon lovers, 121% higher for beefsteak eaters. And how about, hey, dog, I love me some meat. I love all of it. Well, it's not loving you back. If you consume all three of these meats, well done. You have a 362% higher risk of getting breast cancer than women who choose black bean burgers. No, women who choose rare or medium done meat. That risk is completely from the carcinogens of high heat cooking of meat, not plants. Never happens with plants. So where can you get safe protein? Soy is an excellent source. I bet someone somewhere told you to avoid soy because it's packed with phytoestrogens, right? Well, I actually, unfortunately, told women for 18 years in my surgical practice to spit that miso and tofu out of your mouth because I didn't think receptors for estrogen were discriminating. And I had read studies that in mice grafted with breast cancers, when fed soy protein isolate, all the cancers grew. That's all I knew. That's all I needed to know to tell you, don't eat soy. Oops, embarrassingly wrong. When I finally dove into the human science studying soy consumption and breast cancer risk, I found out a couple of things I want to share. The first is that estrogen receptors are discriminating. We have several different types, but the main two are alpha and beta. Alpha, when hit with estrogen, will tell a cancer cell to accelerate, to multiply and divide. But listen up, with 1,600% more affinity, the isoflavones like genistein and daidzein in soy zip over to beta. And when the beta receptor is activated, it does so fascinating things. It shuts alpha down, kind of acting like tamoxifen or a estrogen SERD, a degrader. It flies out to aromatase, the enzyme in your fat cells that's turning precursor steroids into estrogen, and turns it off. So in point of fact, it turns out that every single human study done on soy consumption and breast cancer risk shows that it decreases estrogen levels and it decreases breast cancer incidence, recurrence, and death. Somewhere between zero, like in some studies it's neutral, the vast majority, however, land on around a 32% reduction in incidence, recurrence, and death. So please soy it up. Any of the whole food forms or minimally processed forms are perfect. So we're talking about miso, tempeh, natto, tamari. Those are fermented. Soy milk, tofu, edamame, soybeans, all excellent sources. Always organic, please. We don't need the glyphosate from genetically modified soy. All right, so soy has never once been implicated in elevating breast cancer risk in humans. You can safely forget all about that and soy it up. What else do we need to do? Well, besides eating well, so your Beat It Breast Cancer checklist for food will be to load up on colorful veggies and juicy fruits, 100% whole grains, legumes like beans, peas, lentils, seeds, nuts, whole food soy, and ground flaxseed for an excellent source of protective omega-3s. I want you to ditch as much as possible meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and eggs, and minimize saturated fats and simple sugars, processed and refined foods. Speaking of processed foods, ultra-processed foods have this triple threat going on with refined flour, simple sugar, and trans fats and saturated fats like pastry, donuts, cookies, crackers, cake, donuts. I think I already said donuts. Bagels is what I meant. So bad for you. And look at this. The percentage of daily calories coming from ultra-processed foods varies by country, but is horrifically high. In the United States, 55% of daily calories are coming from nutritionally useless foods like pastry and donuts. In the UK, 48% of daily calories, Canada 42%, Australia 38%, Japan 36%, France 30%, Mexico 27%, South Korea 20%. Whole food, plant-based eating is the way to go. Next up on our controllable risk factors, I'm just hitting the top 4 that the science clearly shows contribute the most to breast cancer causation and bad outcomes once diagnosed. Alcohol is, sorry for those of you who love a glass of red wine, but I'm about to give you a little bit of a buzzkill. It turns out that alcohol consumption in women over these 4 decades, and sorry, it's a little blurry, but we've got our different colored lines that show that the only group that is maybe decreasing of late in the last decade, it would be the 18 to 29-year-olds. Everybody else from 30 on has been increasing her consumption by over half a glass a day of alcohol. So consumption is on the rise, and this is a problem because alcohol has 0 nutritional benefits. Even the resveratrol that we like to think is such a powerful antioxidant coming from red grapes and red wine, it is powerful, and you can get it from the skin of red grapes, and it is completely like so small in quantity in a glass of red wine. You'd have to drink like a case of red wine to get the resveratrol that is actually powerful and antioxidant worthy. You can get that from a cup of red grapes. Just eat the skin. Okay, back to alcohol. So what is it doing? It's increasing estrogen levels. Estrogen feeds and fuels 80% of breast cancers. So too much of a good thing is bad. It forms acetaldehyde, which is just a potent, pure carcinogen. It impairs immune system function, which at the end of the day is responsible for identifying and fixing or throwing away mutated cells on their way to becoming cancer. So you really need your immune system to work well. It inactivates folic acid or folate, thus interfering with DNA repair. It downregulates BRCA1 genes, which are tumor suppressor genes. So now we're suppressing the suppressors. It inactivates methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, MTHFR, which is this enzyme that converts folic acid and folate into methylfolate, which is this amazing babysitter of your DNA. So now you don't have it when you're drinking. And 30 to 50% of people have a suboptimal MTHFR genetically. So that's a double whammy. It elevates cortisol, your stress hormone, which increases inflammation, among other things, disturbs your sleep. Alcohol is a sleep destructive compound. Like, you may fall asleep and think you stayed asleep all night, but if you have any wearable biometrics like a watch or a sleep strip under your mattress or an Oura ring, those things that track your sleep, you will find that you have decimated your deep sleep, which is imperative for all cell rejuvenation and repair, and you have destroyed your REM sleep. So you do not wake up refreshed and ready to fight another day when you drink alcohol. Alcohol also disrupts microbiome homeostasis. In other words, it runs down to your gut, destroys all the good critters that create some short-chain fatty acids that promote anti-inflammatory properties, and it allows these bad critters to overgrow that. Then when they're around, they literally deconjugate, they unpackage bad things that were supposed to be pooped out. Things like excess estrogen and bile acids and bile salts, which we need in small amounts, but the excess was getting excreted. And now, because you drank alcohol, you changed the microbiome, which now allowed all of this stuff to come back into circulation like bad karma. So what is a drink anyway? 5 ounces of wine equals 12 ounces of beer equals 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. Alcohol and breast cancer. A drink a day increases premenopausal breast cancer by 7%, postmenopausal 13%, 2 drinks a day, 15% increase in premenopausal, 25 to 30% in postmenopausal breast cancer, and you can add another 10% per drink thereafter. Next, heavyweight, pun intended, is weight. And if you look at this, women born between 1989 and 1995 are almost 4 kilograms heavier at ages 18 to 23 and gain weight 1.7 times faster than those born between 1973 and 78. These authors estimate that women born in 1989 to 95 will, on average, be 16.7 kilograms heavier at age 41 than women born in the 73 to 78 cohort. So we are getting too chubby. And this is important because obesity and adiposity, just being overweight, directly links to insulin resistance. And when your insulin can't enter into a receptor and then command the following cascade, where the insulin receptor tells the sugar, the glucose transporter receptor, to open up, open your sugar gates, because she just ate a meal and we have some sugar running around and it needs to zip into the cell to provide energy for that cell, or if it's muscle or liver, to be stored there as glycogen. When that insulin receptor is stuffed with saturated fat, that insulin can't get in and it keeps flying around in the bloodstream. And your pancreas is like, why do we have so much sugar flying around, people? Let me throw out even more insulin. So now you're hyperinsulinemic. And this amount of insulin running around directly promotes the growth and proliferation of breast cancers. It literally, there is a receptor for insulin on the majority of cancers, including breast. Hyperinsulinemia, insulin also snatches the body snatcher, IGF-1 binding protein. It takes it away. So now your IGF-1 goes up. We already talked about that badness. It upregulates, insulin does, VEGF, which is an angiogenic compound that promotes the growth of blood vessels to cancers. It is the number one heavyweight of all angiogenic compounds, of which there are over 30 in our bodies. Then you had all that sugar running around. Guess what feeds and fuels cancer? Sugar. We all know this. It is true that sugar feeds cancer, and cancer requires like 10 times the amount of a normal cell because of the way it metabolizes glucose. It does it kind of in a really fast way because it's dividing and it's busy and it needs all the component parts. So it literally takes a sugar molecule and poops out 2 glucose, whereas a normal cell will poop out 36 glucose. So you can see that if I'm only getting 2 glucose, I need a ton of sugar to accomplish my daily needs. Thank you so much for being overweight so that you're insulin resistant, so I have all the sugar I need to thrive and divide. Chronic inflammation, adipokine imbalance, these are molecules and hormones directly secreted by fat itself. Interleukin-6, TNF alpha, leptin, these are all creating chaos inside of you. And insulin activates aromatase, which is the enzyme making more estrogen, more cancer fuel. This is actually good news, though, because if you lose the weight, you lose that insulin resistance and you drop your cancer risk. So you will lose the visceral fat and have less inflammation, lose the liver fat, and your glucose can be better regulated. You will lose free fatty acids and lipotoxicity, improving signaling in muscle. You will drop that level of fasting insulin when there's no food to deal with. Why do you have all this insulin running around? So you'll have less tumor cell proliferation. And now you'll have healthy hormones signaled from the fat themselves, releasing adiponectin, which improves insulin sensitivity. So if you want to win against breast cancer, be a loser. Weight and breast cancer risk. If you lose weight, you will lose risk. This prospective study followed over 33,000 women for over 15 years. And in that period of time, 1,987 of them got breast cancer. Relative to the woman who steadily gained weight over time, if you lost weight in your premenopausal years, you had 64% less breast cancer than the woman who steadily gained weight. And if you lost that weight after menopause, you had 52% less breast cancer. And if you just didn't gain weight, simply not gaining got you gains, 34% less breast cancer for weight maintenance. So the more weight women lost and the younger in life they lost it, particularly at a premenopausal age, the less breast cancer they got. But all the losers won. Oh, sorry, I actually meant to do that in stages, but there we go. Now, let me help you understand how you're gaining this weight. We talked about ultra-processed food consumption. That is such a critical trigger for weight gain. Sugary drinks, white bread, increased blood sugar and insulin spikes. High fructose foods, so all of those cookies, cakes, ice cream, crackers, and drinking alcohol increases liver fat. Ultra-processed, high-calorie foods increase visceral fat around your organs. Processed meats and fried food increase inflammation. And your American diet of low fiber, high sugar makes that gut microbiome imbalanced. In addition to food, though, There are specific activities that can decrease insulin resistance, decreasing, therefore, that effect of excess insulin. Time-restricted eating, both intermittent fasting on a daily basis and longer-term fasts up to 5 days. Sleep optimization. It is so critical that we sleep and we sleep well. So I encourage you to get one of these wearables so you can track your sleep and understand if you are hitting your target goals of non-REM deep sleep and REM. Stress reduction, however you do that, whether you mindfully meditate or go for a walk in nature, spend time with friends laughing, do yoga, gentle stretching, Tai Chi. We need to stress less. Journaling is another great way. But of this little short list, the heaviest hitter by far is exercise. One session of resistance training, HIIT, a walk after dinner, literally improves insulin sensitivity for 24 to 48 hours. So what could that do if you exercised on the regular? Well, you'd also improve your body composition, meaning your muscle to fat ratio. You would decrease the levels of circulating estrogens, decrease inflammation, improve the adipokine milieu, improve immune system surveillance, which then allows improved DNA repair. So once people hear me wax on about all the health and longevity benefits of exercise, the inevitable next question is, okay, what is the minimum amount of exercise I have to do? Well, I have good news. I will take whatever you will give me, friends, because just standing up off that couch gets you some exponential gains. Couch potato to moving an hour a week will give you such better impact on this x-axis of health benefits. But if you want to be a super achiever, as I hope you do, then you do want to hit 150 minutes of moderate exercise, defined as I can carry on a conversation right now, but I cannot sing. Then I want 150 minutes. If you really want to be A++ on the grade, you can see you get more gains for more time. 5 hours a week of moderate exercise is true perfection. More is even better. If you want to Forrest Gump it all the way to 10 hours a week, go for it. But the curve, it's not flat, but it's the extra time you're putting in is basically the exact same amount of time you're adding to the end of your life. So you spend the extra hours of life running. But until 5 hours a week, you are pretty much getting gains. Again, just start. Just start. I'll take whatever you will give me. This 2024 study of 45,000 women, average age 55, were followed for 10 years. And in that time, 994 of them got breast cancer. Compared to the least fit group, any level of fitness decreased your breast cancer risk. Here, 18% for low-fit women, 31% less for moderately fit women, and 40% less breast cancer for highly fit women. All right, so what if you've already had breast cancer? Well, this is a great study to encourage you to just move more and start now. 1,340 breast cancer patients with stages 1 through 3, high-risk cancers. Why are they high risk? Because they all underwent chemotherapy. This study looked at exercise and breast cancer recurrence by logging activity before a diagnosis, during treatment, and at 1 and 2 year intervals after therapy was completed. So at 2-year follow-up, compared to the couch potato who did not exercise before, during, or after her diagnosis. So compared to her, someone who didn't exercise before but just started had 46% less breast cancer recurrence. Incredible, right? What if you exercised before and you kept it up? Well, extra good for you, 55% less recurrence. What if you exercised before and stopped for some reason? This is interesting to me because you would think that all of your excellent behaviors for all of your life got you some real gains, and it kind of doesn't. Only 6% less recurrence over the couch potato. Look at this, all-cause mortality. Exercise in breast cancer patients had a 43% drop if you started exercising basically for the first time in all causes of mortality. So that include not only your breast cancer, but all cancers, heart disease, strokes, diabetes, all are big killers. 68% less all-cause mortality if you were always exercising. And if you used to but stopped, you have a 9%. What about the time commitment per week in all-cause mortality? Look how encouraging this is. It doesn't matter. Just bust a move, people. I don't even care how long, because those who are less active at less than 150 minutes per week, in this study anyway, had basically the same enjoyment and decrease of all-cause mortality as those who were working out 5 hours a week. I mean, you did get 10% more for working out 5 hours instead of less than 2.5, but the point is still clear. There's a survival advantage by busting a move. So in conclusion, my friends, I want to remind you to eat a whole food plant-based diet, ditch meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and eggs, and minimize saturated fats and simple sugars. Cut back or cut out alcohol. Your body and your brain will thank you. Keep your body mass index under 25 for optimal wellness, and move your body ideally 2.5 to 5 hours a week. You can find out more about me and find resources for you at pinklotus.com, especially in the Power Up section. And I do have a national bestseller that is in 13 languages, so please look for my book in a language that appeals to you. So thank you for your time and attention. I hope you are enjoying the conference, and I look forward to meeting you in person one day soon. Be well.